because you are in the Hoodwood. I'm the Black Bandit, KJ Green, welcoming you to another edition of Sports from the Hoodwood. Coming up in this edition, CFP Final 12. Did they get it right? We'll discuss the teams that got in, teams that got left out, and are these games fair to all participants? The NBA Cup is down to 4 teams. Duly noted. Is anybody really paying attention? We'll take a look at the semifinals and who I think will get to the finals of the NBA Cup in Vegas. Bill Belichick goes back to school. He's almost 72 years old. Why the multi-champion coach is going to UNC. And why I don't think Travis Hunter should win the Heisman, even though he's the spot-on lock to win the coveted Heisman Award. We'll have NFL Week 15 review. I'm going to keep on rolling with good picks. Hoodwood Hot 5, who I think will get further in the CFP playoffs. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Phat Dap Head Slap, a special announcement in the Hoodwood, and why I think in the final word you should pay attention to. All coming up, Sports from the Hoodwoods. Put your crash helmets on, buckle your seatbelts. Sports from the Hoodwoods coming at you. Let's go. Where Snuffy found his hat and all the neighbors and the natives in Hoodwood are happy about that. I'm your man KJ Green, welcoming you to another edition of the Hoodwood, and let's get right into it. College football playoff, field of 12 has been set. The field was announced on Sunday afternoon. I did a live stream about that, and I'll tell you really to be honest, I think they got it right. The 12-team field being set, Oregon, Georgia, Arizona State, and Boise State getting byes. Boise State a bit of a surprise as with the top-ranked group of 5 team get in, but they got first-round byes. Georgia going to the Sugar Bowl, Oregon going to the Rose Bowl, Arizona State going to the Arizona State going to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and Boise State going to the Fiesta Bowl. I was thinking if Arizona State got a bye, that they might land a pseudo home game playing in State Farm Stadium in Glendale, which is about a half hour west of the Arizona State campus, but they send them instead to Atlanta. Georgia, of course, wasn't going to play in Atlanta. They played the traditional SEC Sugar Bowl venue from halcyon days past, and Oregon going to the Rose Bowl, where most Big Ten / Pac-12 teams would go if they won their conference. So they kind of try to keep them in the traditional venues. Boise State, of course, having history in the Fiesta Bowl from 2007. Now, SMU, Indiana, and Tennessee were 3 of the teams I thought were kind of getting surprise berths, making the field. SMU was on the fence. After losing to Clemson in the ACC title game, many people thought they wouldn't get in, but they were a surprise entry, making the field. They will play Penn State. Indiana, also a team kind of sitting on the fence. No one knew if they were going to make the CFP or not. They end up being a 10 seed. They will go to South Bend to play Notre Dame. Tennessee, also an SEC team that was sitting and waiting. Would they have enough chops and gravitas to get into the field? They end up being a 9 seed going to Columbus to play Ohio State. That's going to be an interesting game because the game time temperatures there in Columbus for that Saturday night game will be about 19 degrees. I'm not saying that Knoxville is a warm venue, but more often than not, being used to playing in warmer climes, playing in the SEC, Tennessee is going to be very much out of their element playing in Columbus. But there you have the field of 12 to be set. I'm going to show you the graph. I've been showing you the graphic here the last few minutes. The field is set. Did they get it right? I think so. With Oregon being the undisputed number 1, Georgia being the undisputed number 2, you really didn't have a lot of, oh, well, this team should have got in, that team. Hush, Alabama. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anybody from Alabama claiming, oh, we should have got in because we're Alabama. No. Alabama was 9-3. Alabama did not play for the SEC title. Alabama was sitting home. And I don't believe, and many of the arguments that I was hearing was that SMU didn't deserve to get in, but Alabama did. Alabama didn't even play in its conference championship, but SMU did. SMU lost their conference championship to Clemson, and Clemson, of course, being the ACC winner, gets in, and many people wondered if there was going to be 2 ACC teams getting in. SMU did answer just that by getting one of the at-large berths. Now, SMU will have to go on the road, as will Clemson. Clemson has to go to Texas. SMU is going to Happy Valley to play Penn State. They will be heavy underdogs in these games, but they got in. And I do believe that these teams were rightful in getting in their place in the CFP playoff. Ohio State, yeah. Everybody talked about Ohio State when you're in Alabama. Well, Ohio State didn't get into the they didn't play their conference championship. Ohio State has 2 losses. One to Oregon, one to Michigan. Now, the Michigan loss really hurt them. I am of the firm belief that Ohio State losing to Michigan cost them a home game, because I figured if Ohio State got to the Big Ten championship, I figured they would lose to Oregon, but as a consolation, get shipped off to the first round and play a home game. Now, they're still playing a home game, but they're a lower seed. Now, some of the seedings I think are kind of suspect. I think that the team should be reseeded after the first round. That Oregon, as benefactor of the number one seed, should get the weakest team that's left in the field. They don't get a home game, but they get a tougher game. They're going to end up getting the Ohio State-Tennessee winner. That's a game that you should be seeing in the semifinals, not the quarterfinals. Well, that should be a championship game. Now, the SEC whines that Alabama and Ole Miss and South Carolina were worthy teams that were overlooked for weaker teams. SMU's not a top 12 team. Why not? SMU has 1 loss. Tennessee, the SEC got 3 teams in Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas. Tell me why. Explain this to me. Why these teams did not duly deserve to get their fair shot at the college football playoff. Make it make sense. We'll preview the matchups of these games next week. But again, you have the 12-team field, and I think they got it right. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about looking at the NBA Cup, which is the semifinals are due to start on Saturday with Atlanta and Milwaukee facing off, and Houston and Oklahoma City facing off in the other semifinals. And the sporting public is, you have no real marquee names. And I'm not taking anything away from the Hawks and the Bucks, and I've always been a big Giannis Antetokounmpo fan. Trae Young is a beast. He's one of the quiet superstars in the NBA. In the East, the Rockets have a good young core of a team, a kind of a starless team, if you will. And the Thunder is another team with a lot of good young players, but nobody that's really moving the needle. These are your final four teams in the NBA Cup. And I saw this note here, put it up on the screen, about how the ticket prices for the semifinals for the NBA Cup are basically falling through the floor. Now, keep in mind, this time last year, LeBron and the Lakers were making their run to the NBA Cup. And they were a team to see in Vegas. And tickets were top dollar. This, not so much. Now, Steve Kerr was fuming over the loss of his Warriors to the Rockets in the knockout round, claiming that there was some sort of bias, that people didn't want his team to get into the NBA Cup semifinals. Why is it now when teams lose, it's always a conspiracy? Some shadowy figure controlling, pulling the strings. You lost. And I like Steve Kerr. I've always liked him. I liked him as a player, and I like him as a coach. I think he's a great coach. But in this regard, I think he just really needs to keep quiet about it. The Warriors lost to the Rockets. Get over it. You got 4 teams that are left in the NBA Cup, and the final is going to be on a Tuesday. Wow, that's really going to move the needle. A Saturday night semifinals. It should have been a Thursday night semifinal and a Saturday final that you could put on ABC. Have that as a national game. Something that people could really look at and say, okay, this is a good early season tournament. Here's the crown jewel of it. But you're shoveling it out on a Tuesday night. Ain't nobody gonna watch that. Even if you get, say, and I'm just saying this for supposing his purposes, say you get Giannis and the Bucks, Giannis, Dame, Lillard, and the Bucks playing Chet Holmgren and that good young Thunder team. Are people going to really watch it outside of Milwaukee and Oklahoma City? Is this really going to move the needle on a Tuesday night? It's bad enough that it's not on a Saturday night, but you're playing in the middle of the week, a week before Christmas? Ain't nobody going to watch that. Nobody got no time for that. Let's take a time out. Come back, and we'll go to school. Now we go to school. Bill Belichick, at 72, coaching the University of North Carolina, how he says that he's going to bring that NFL mentality to college. Is that going to work? And why I don't think Travis Hunter should win the Heisman. Sports from Hoodwood continues after this.
the Hoodwood, the internet's premier destination for no-nonsense commentary, thorough analysis, and logical insight on the world of sports. Now here's the man that Wikipedia and Google call for sports fact checks, your host, KJ Green.
You are back in the Hoodwood. Before we get into our next topic, Snuffy says it all. Get well soon, Randy Moss. We love you. We're praying for you. He was diagnosed with a cancerous tumor found outside of his bile duct between his pancreas and liver. So he had stepped away from his duties as analyst on NFL Countdown. And so, as someone who's personally had to deal with scourge of cancer, we absolutely hate it, and we're wishing the best for Randy Moss. Prayers go up for him and for a speedy recovery. Hope everything comes back and he gets back good as new. We love you, Randy. Keep the fight up. Now, one of Randy Moss's former coaches, Bill Belichick, has taken on what I think is a puzzling new career. I wouldn't say it's a new career, but no one really thinks of Bill Belichick as a college coach. But Bill Belichick has decided to take on the head coaching duties of North Carolina. Tar Heels announcing earlier in the week that the 72-year-old Bill Belichick will be their next head coach. So you're going from the oldest coach in Division I in Mack Brown to the oldest coach was once oldest coach in the NFL, now the oldest coach in college football in Bill Belichick. Now, Belichick says that he is going to attack this and have the approach and treat it like an NFL team with a general manager and scouts and everything like that. Now, North Carolina has not won an ACC title since 1980. When they had a fabulous junior linebacker by the name of Lawrence Taylor, who also played for Belichick Belichick was his defensive coordinator for the New York Giants in the late 80s and early 90s. But you have to wonder, this isn't college football of 20 years ago. This isn't college football of 10 years ago, where you had a coach who could be that strong, my way or the highway type of mentality. When you're in the pros, you could just cut somebody. I always remember when Belichick was coach of the Patriots, and he cut Lawyer Malloy, the captain of the Patriots' first Super Bowl winning team in 2002. He cut Lawyer Malloy, a fabulous player, but it was to show that anybody could be cut. Anybody could be run off. Anyone could lose their job. You better do your job and do it to the best of your abilities or you're gone. Will this mentality work in college? Sure, you're going to have these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids in awe of the legendary coach. But you start throwing all this my way or the highway things with the way the transfer portal is, these people are going to go. They're going to be like, the hell with this. And with NIL money being the way it is and the way the transfer portal is, players are not going to take that gruff, I don't want to talk about it, you're going to do it my way type of mentality. That gruff mentality will work in the pros, because there's such a scarcity of NFL jobs. And to stay up with one of the legendary teams in the Patriots, you had to do it the Patriot way. You had to do it Belichick's way. And even if you did do it Belichick's way, if you're a cap casualty, gone. You might as well just go ahead and write yourself out. And a lot of great players from the Patriots were basically shown the door because they were either cap casualty or they were just being shown, hey, you're not untouchable. The only untouchable player on that team was Tom Brady, and even he got shown the door late in his career. it was time for him to go, and he was sent out. Will this work in the college environment? Will the Belichick way reshape a middling ACC team? North Carolina has always been decent, but they haven't been upper echelon of the ACC. Will Belichick, and the way the rumor is that he will coach only a couple of years and then hand the reins to his son Steven. Now, Steven has been kind of an assistant, kind of a quality control for the elder Belichick for a number of years. But does he have that head coaching experience? Got a little nepotism going on there. And you have to wonder, when things start to go bad, you can't buy your way out of it. You can't go into the free agent market, even though he may try to lure some players to transfer to him because of the name. The Belichick name goes a long way, but will it carry over in college? Inquiring minds want to know. At the risk of sounding like a hater, I'm going to just say this right off the rip. I don't think that Travis Hunter should win the Heisman. I think that Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State, should be the runaway winner for the Heisman Trophy. And I think in many other years, had there not been a Travis Hunter, that Jeanty would be the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. There's one small problem: the hype that surrounds Travis Hunter, the omnipresent luminary that is his coach, Deion Sanders, hyping him up. And speaking of Sanders, Deion Sanders' son Shador says, "I'm better than that boy in Oregon." No, Shador, you're not. He's going to make it. I just have the feeling he's going to make a very, very rowdy situation for when it comes to NFL draft, pulling a type of Eli Manning thing. But that's another story, another topic for another day. Travis Hunter, the numbers speak for themselves. 92 catches, 1,152 yards, 14 touchdowns, which is second rank in the FBS division. He's only allowed 22 catches and a single touchdown. He only has 4 interceptions, but so many people are afraid to throw his way. He logged 1,356 snaps on offense and defense in 12 games, which was 434 more than the next FBS player. The numbers in itself and what he has done are very, very impressive. He is a decent receiver. Breakaway speed, he's not a Randy Moss. He's not a Justin Jefferson. He's got decent speed and a knack for the ball. But he is also Shador Sanders' favorite target. Now, Hunter was a 5-star recruit, and he shunned a lot of the big names to go to Jackson State. Everybody had said that Deion Sanders at Jackson State was a recruiting coup waiting to happen, that he would get a lot of 5-star recruits to play at the HBCU. I said it wouldn't be long before he goes to a bigger D1 school, and he did just that, going to Colorado. Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders followed him to Boulder. Now, Hunter plays both offense and defense, which is impressive because you don't see a lot of two-way players playing the game anymore, if at all. But Hunter isn't a Sauce Gardner, a shutdown corner. He's not a Kobe Bryant, the football, not the basketball. He's not a Deion Sanders. He's not a Charlie Woodson. A shutdown corner that makes spectacular plays on defense. He doesn't have a lot of people throwing at him because he is a great defender. Now, the number of awards that Hunter has gotten, the Bednarik Award, the Belichick Award. He's the first player to win both the Bednarik, which is a defensive player, and Belichick, which is a top wide receiver, in the same season. It's ironic that Bednarik was the last of the two-way NFL players. Now, his playmaking, his speed is really undeniable. And he is going to be a top choice in the NFL draft this coming spring. But I think the numbers that Genty has put out, his number of 200-yard rushing games, the number of touchdowns that he has scored 29 touchdowns. Not 2, not 9, not 19, 29. And he has over 2,400 yards rushing in 12 games. He is averaging better than 200 yards a game. He is the reason also why Boise State is 12-1 and in the college football playoff. If Travis Hunter was such a generational player, if he was such a great player, why did the Buffs go 9-3? Why did the Buffs not even get into the Big 12 title game? They lost some games that they had no business losing. Now, are they going to a bowl? Of course they're going to a bowl. And they're going to be probably in a New Year's 6th. Yeah, I think there's a New Year's 6th day bowl. I will have to look up where they are, and I'll probably put up what bowl they actually made. But you're not going to see Hunter playing for a national championship. And it would not surprise me in the least if both Sanders and Hunter opted out of that bowl game to prepare for the NFL draft, in which they will both be top picks. But I still say, and I will stand by that with the Heisman Trophy announcement coming this Saturday, that Ashton Genty, not Travis Hunter, should be the Heisman Trophy winner. And of course I'll be wrong, but I'll stand by my conviction. Let's take a time out, come back with NFL Week 15. I went 11-2 last week. See if I can keep that going. Sports from the Hoodwood rolls on after this.
Is today your last day on Earth because you are being deployed to space tomorrow? Have you just turned 18 and you're ready to get out of your parents' house? Has your granddaughter gotten her boyfriend pregnant? Whatever your reason, you need us at GottaGetMarriedNow.com. We specialize in last-minute weddings. Active duty, military veterans and retired discounts are available. Visit us at GottaGetMarriedNow.com.
Hi everyone, I'm KJ Green. If you're looking to reach a broad audience for your advertising dollar, look no further than where you are right now. You can advertise right here in the Hoodwood. If you need spots created as well, Black Banner Productions Enterprises can create commercial content that drives sales and gets results. You can send your inquiries to ads at blackbannerproductions.com. Black Banner Productions and Enterprises. Sounds, ideas, and images, 21st century.
You are tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for opinion, analysis, and insight on the world of sports. Here now is the man banned from sports trivia contests in 38 states and 4 Canadian provinces, and not to mention Guam. Your host, KJ Green.
You are back in the Hoodwood. My name is KJ Green. Let's get into the Week 15 NFL picks. And we've hit the home stretch, and this is where the games get really crucial. Playoff berths are starting to get taken. The margin of error for a lot of these teams are getting slimmer and slimmer every week. As it stands now, only Las Vegas, Cleveland, New England, Tennessee, Jacksonville, and the New York teams have been formally eliminated for playoff contention. That means the once laughingstock Panthers and the current mess the Chicago Bears are still mathematically alive for playoff spots, but their hopes are flickering at best. In fact, there are more teams that have been eliminated from playoff contention, 7 being the total of that, than teams that have clinched playoff spots, being Buffalo, Kansas City, Philly, and Detroit. So for your review, perusal, and approval, please note the following picks for Week 15. And teams that can clinch with a win will be duly noted in their respective game previews. Odds are provided by ESPN Bet and are for entertainment and comparison purposes only, which means if you bet the Lions and lose, You're going to have to explain why you lost Christmas gift money to your significant other, and please do not mention my name in any regard with that, because I have nothing to do with it. I don't pay bookies, and I don't explain why you bet the lines and lost. But do consult the fine folks at 506sports.com for a comprehensive coverage map of games in your area. In a rare case of league generosity, both networks have double headers. I picked in the Hoodwood preview on Thursday evening, as I was starting to get things together for the podcast, that I would pick Los Angeles, and in a battle of field goals, the Los Angeles Rams did win 12-6. That win is not counted in the win-loss total at the end of the segment. But we will start with the Sunday, December 15 games. All times are listed in Eastern Standard Time. We will start with 8-5 Ravens taking on the 2-11 Giants at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. 1 p.m. kickoff on CBS. The Ravens are 16-point favorites. Not 6, not 10, 16. That is not a misprint. Last week, the Ravens were on their bye, and the Giants lost to the Saints 14-11. Fast fact here is the Giants have won the last 3 meetings in New York. In fact, the home team has won every meeting in this series since 2004. This has the makings of a thorough beatdown. The rested Ravens face a G-Men squad that can't get it out of its own way, stumbling and bumbling through another disastrous loss, this time in the hands of the Saints as they blew a shot at overtime last week. Now Lamar Jackson looks to push his team to another playoff berth, and the Giants are a speed bump. They need Duke from the Rocky movies in the corner ready to scream. As Ravens look very much like Drago to the Giants' overmatched Apollo. I'm glad I have Sunday ticket because this game isn't going to be fit to watch unless you're a Ravens fan. That's why right out of the chute, I'm making Baltimore the Hoodwood lock of the week. Next on the docket, we have the 3-10 Jets taking on the 3-10 Jaguars at Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville. 1 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Jets are 3.5-point favorites. Last week, the Jets lost to the Dolphins 32-26 in overtime, while the Jaguars defeated the Titans 10-6. Ugh. Fast fact here is the Jets Fast fact, the Jets have lost 8 of their past 9 games and have clinched their 9th straight losing season with their defeat in Week 13 against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, this game is so undesirable to watch, only parts of greater New York, Hartford, Jacksonville, and southern Georgia areas will get this game over the air. I'm still trying to figure out what Scranton did to have to show this game. In any case, the Jets dropped another heartbreaker, this time in South Florida, and trekked north to face the equally woebegone Jags, who snugged through another snoozer in Nashville, but came out with a surprise win. Now, the Jets are due for one of those, why can't y'all play like this games that some other teams do have every now and then. Aaron Rodgers will come out of his perpetually bored state to play a good game, and the Jets will have their early Christmas present win to cheer their otherwise forgettable season. The pick here is the New York Jets. Next on the docket, we have the 5-8 Cowboys taking on the 3-10 Panthers at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. 1 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Panthers are 3-point favorites. Last week, the Cowboys lost to the Bengals 27-20, while the Panthers lost to the Eagles 22-16. Fast fact is that each of the last 5 Panthers games has been decided by 1 score or less. They are 1-4 in those games. Another snoozer is taking place in Charlotte, where the Pokes, coming in off of a Monday night meltdown against the Bengals, face a Panthers team that's looking less and less like a pushover as they took the Eagles to the wire in a surprisingly tough and competitive game. Cowboys keep making noises like they're sticking together through a tough season, but they've already come apart at the seams. Meanwhile, the Panthers, they don't have the wins to show for it, but they are playing teams tough. Call me crazy, but I think the Panthers are the better team than their 3-10 record would show. And I think that they have the chops to knock off an already fragile Poke squad that I think they've already packed it in. The pick here is Carolina. Next on the docket, we have the 8-5 Commanders taking on the 5-8 Saints at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. 1 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Commanders are 7-point favorites. Last week, the Commanders were on their bye, while the Saints defeated the Giants 14-11. Fast fact, here's Washington hasn't defeated the Saints in New Orleans since 2005. Since 2015. Now, the rested Commanders make Let's start that all over again. Next on the docket, we have the 8-5 Commanders taking on the 5-8 Saints at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, 1 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Commanders are 7-point favorites. Last week, the Commanders were on their bye, while the Saints defeated the Giants 14-11. Fast fact here is Washington hasn't defeated the Saints in New Orleans since 2015. Now the rest of the Commanders look to make a late push to the playoffs and take on the Saints, who are happy to escape Gotham with a narrow win. I think the Commanders' offense will be able to wear down a Saints defense that keeps getting put on the field way too much by its ineffective offense. Jaden Daniels is overdue for a breakout game, and I think the overworked Saints defense will be just the tonic. The pick here is Washington. Next on the docket, we have the 5-8 Bengals taking on the 3-10 Titans at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, 1 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Bengals are 5-point favorites. Last week, the Bengals defeated the Cowboys 27-20, while the Titans defeated the Jaguars 10-6. Fast fact is Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase currently leads the NFL in receptions with 93, receiving yards with 1,319, and touchdowns with 15, while his quarterback Joe Burrow leads the NFL in TD passes with 33 and yards with 3,706. Make it make sense. The Bengals have the most dynamic of offensive duos in the irrepressible Burrow and the electrifying Chase, but the team has slogged through a torturous season so far at 5-8. They cashed in on a boneheaded miscue by the equally bad Pokes to steal a Monday night win and head to Music City to take on a Titans team that has virtually no concept of offense. Now, the defense has played decent enough to avoid getting blown out too often, but can the Titans keep a equally bad team in check? Now, they have no trouble with bad teams, but the good teams run roughshod. The mediocre Bengals, I don't know. They aren't elite, but I think the Burrow-Chase combo will be enough to get them through to another win. The pick here is Cincinnati. Next to the docket, we have the 6-7 Dolphins taking on the 8-5 Texans at NRG Stadium in Houston, 1 p.m. kickoff on CBS. The Texans are 3-point favorites. Last week, the Dolphins defeated the Jets 32-26 in overtime, while the Texans were on their bye. Fast fact is the longest run in each team's franchise history is by the same player, Lamar Miller, who broke off 95-yard runs for each team 3 years apart. Now, the Dolphins escaped what could have been a season back-breaking loss with an overtime win against the Jets in South Beach. Try it again. The Dolphins escaped what could have been a season back-breaking loss with an overtime win against the sorry Jets at home and head to Houston to face a rested Texan squad looking to lock down the AFC South. Now, as much as I do like Tua Tagovailoa, he will have his hands full with a withering Texan defense. And I really have no faith in the Dolphins' defense against the whirling dervish that is CJ Stroud. It will be a tight game, but I think the Texans are the better team and will pull away late. The pick here is Houston. Finally, on our early docket, we have the 12-1 Chiefs taking on the 3-10 Browns at Huntington Bank Field in Cleveland. 1 p.m. kickoff on CBS. The Chiefs are 4.5-point favorites. Last week, the Chiefs defeated the Chargers 19-17, while the Browns lost to the Steelers 27-14. Fast fact is 10 of the Chiefs' 12 wins this season are by a touchdown or less. Now, the Chiefs keep dodging one close loss after another and head to the dog pound to face a Browns team that has played competitively but keep dropping games. Now, the Chiefs keep finding ways to win, but their offense is far from the juggernaut that it used to be. They have scored 30 points or more just twice this year, and both times exactly 30. I believe the close shaves are going to cut them the wrong way sooner or later, but it won't be this week, as they are the much better team. But I get the feeling that this game, like so many others, will be needlessly close. Pick here is Kansas City. Let's take a timeout, come back with the late games and the primetime games, as well as a pair of Monday Nighters. Sports from the Hoodwood rolls on after this.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest insight, thorough analysis, and unfiltered opinion on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's the man of the hour, After Hours, your host, KJ Green.
You are back in the Hoodwood. Let's go to the late docket of games. First on the docket, we have the 3-10 Patriots taking on the 6-7 Cardinals at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. 4:25 kickoff on CBS. The Cardinals are 6-point favorites. Last week, the Patriots were on their bye, while the Cardinals lost to the Seahawks 30-18. Fast fact is Patriots quarterback Drake May is averaging 9.1 yards a carry, the highest for a quarterback since Michael Vick in 2006. He had 8.5 yards a carry. Now, coming off their bye, the Pats are trying to just get this season over with and head to the desert to face a Cards team stung by an embarrassing loss to the division rival Seahawks, and that puts their playoff hopes in dire straits. Kyler Murray has tried his best to keep the Cardinals afloat, but his defense keeps letting him down. Now, the Cardinals should find the sledding much easier against Pat's team that has no real threat on offense and a defense that has played poorly all season. Now, the Cardinals should get a much needed win here to keep them on the playoff periphery. The pick here is Arizona. Next on the docket, we have the 6-7 Colts taking on the 8-5 Broncos at Empower Field at Mile High in Denver. 4:25 kickoff on CBS. The Broncos are 4-point favorites. Last week, both teams were on their respective byes. Fast fact here is the win gives the Broncos their first winning season guaranteed since 2016. Now, the Colts, believe it or not, are still very much in the playoff race, and in this battle against their fellow equine brethren, they might set themselves up for a late run if they can get a win in the Mile High City. The Broncos, for their part, have the weirdest of scheduling quirks. After their bye, they have 2 games in 4 days. After they head right to LA after this Sunday game to play the Chargers on the 19th, this Thursday, which means this is one of only 2 Sundays that they will play in December. And the only one that they will play on a Sunday if their Week 17 game against the Bengals gets moved to Saturday the 28th. Now, the Broncos could show real resilience and lock up a heretofore unthought-of playoff spot with wins down the stretch. Super tough call here, as both teams may treat this like a do-or-die playoff game. I'm thinking that Bo Nix continues his rookie growth, and the Broncos recall the halcyon days of their mile-high magic and pull out a tight win. The pick here is Denver. Next on the docket, we have the 7-6 Buccaneers taking on the 8-5 Chargers at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. 4:25 kickoff on CBS. The Chargers are 3-point favorites. Last week, the Buccaneers defeated the Raiders 28-13, while the Chargers lost to the Chiefs 19-17. Fast fact here is there once was an NFL team that played in 1926 and 27 named the Los Angeles Buccaneers. They were a traveling team that didn't actually play in the City of Angels because there was no intercontinental jet service at the time. Looking so very bored in an easy win over the Raiders, the Bucs moved back into first place in the NFC South and now head west to play their one-time division rivals in the Chargers. Now, before you think I'm on something, the Bucs played their inaugural, the winless season as members of the AFC West in 1976. That was another fast fact for you. Baker Mayfield is playing sharply, and the Bucs have pushed back into the lead of the weak NFC South. Now, the Chargers, for their part, are still very much in the playoff hunt, though they dropped a very winnable game to the Chiefs last Sunday. Another tough game to really call here, as both teams are very much mirrors of one another. Solid offenses with swashbuckling, gambling quarterbacks and iconoclastic head coaches not afraid to take risks. I'll flip a coin or a casino, and I'll just go with the home team on gut instinct. Pick here is Los Angeles Chargers. Next on the docket, we have the 10-3 Bills taking on the 12-1 Lions at Ford Field in Detroit. 4:25 kickoff on CBS. The Lions are 2.5-point favorites. Last week, the Bills lost to the Rams 44-42, while the Lions defeated the Packers 34-31. Fast fact here is the Lions' 11-game winning streak is the longest in franchise history, and a win in this game will give them a franchise record for wins in a season. Now, the Bills lost a thrilling shootout in LA and stay on the road for another tough interconference battle with the White Hot Lions in Motown. Now, the Lions, for their part, are playing their first Sunday game in 3 weeks. Now, the scoreboard could get another workout as both teams have high-powered offenses. Now, the Lions' defense, while decently solid, has had some lapses as late as have the Bills. This game could be one of those last team with the ball wins type shootouts, and for some reason, I keep thinking the Lions are overdue for a flat game before their inevitable Super Bowl run. That's why I have the Buffalo Bills as the Hoodwood upset of the week. Next on the docket is another big meaty game. The 10-3 Steelers taking on the 11-2. Try it again. We have another meaty game on the docket with the 10-3 Steelers taking on the 11-2 Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. 4:25 kickoff on Fox. The Eagles are 5.5-point favorites. Last week, the Steelers defeated the Browns 27-14, while the Eagles defeated the Panthers 22-16. Fast fact is the Eagles lead the NFL in rushing, but are next to last in passing yards. Now, I want to know who scheduled this game opposite of the other interconference clash of the Titans. Why does the NFL not want its football brethren to watch both of these games? Inquiring minds want to know. Now, the Steelers have taken control of the AFC North and head to Philly for a rare matchup with their cross-state neighbors. The Eagles have been rolling as of late, but their offense is getting more and more imbalanced with a seemingly overdependence on their run game. Now, the Steelers are a flawed team, to be sure, as they purport to be a dominant team, but their defense is still looking for its identity. That said, I've been saying that the Eagles will get beat soon. Here is the perfect trap game, especially after their lackluster showing against the weak Panthers. I think the Steelers exploit this and eke out a narrow win. It's not an upset, though. Pick here is Pittsburgh. Sunday night game is the 9-4 Packers versus the 8-5 Seahawks at Lumen Field in Seattle. 8:20 kickoff on NBC and Peacock. The Packers are 2.5-point favorites. Last week, the Packers lost to the Lions 34-31, while the Seahawks defeated the Cardinals 30-18. Fast fact is the Packers' most recent win against the Seahawks was a 17-0 win in 2021, the only time a Matt LaFleur team has shut out an opponent. I think the NFL knew that this was going to be a meeting of good teams, and they didn't flex out of it. Though I think they should have moved this game to Monday night and moved that hard Falcons-Raiders game to something like Saturday morning where nobody would really watch it or care. And in all seriousness, the Packers need this win to keep pace with the rampaging Lions and Vikings in their own division, while the Seahawks are trying to hold off the Rams and Cards in the NFC West. The Packers play too inconsistent to be a 9-win team, to be sure, but they stay right in the middle of the playoff race. The Seahawks, for their part, have played well behind Geno Smith, but Kenneth Walker's up and down running is very frustrating, not just because he's on both of my fantasy squads. I think the Packers overcome the wild setting of Lumen and grind out an ugly win. The pick here is Green Bay. Next on the docket, we turn to the Monday games. 2 games played on Monday this week. The first of which are the 4-9 Bears taking on the 11-2 Vikings at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. 8 p.m. kickoff on ABC and ESPN+. The Vikings are 7-point favorites. Last week, the Bears lost to the 49ers 38-13, while the Vikings defeated the Falcons 42-21. Fast fact is the Vikings' 42 points was the most scored since 2019. Now, the Bears dispensed with the suspense and got mollywomped from the jump in San Fran. They head to the Twin Cities to face a Vikings team that's getting more and more confident by the week and that they can be more than a shadow to the Lions in the NFC North. Caleb Williams, bless his heart, is trying like a scout, but the Bears' weak running game and more porous defense is putting him in untenable situations. Meanwhile, Sam Darnold is hearing more and more MVP talk as his quiet leadership and stellar play has the Vikings on a serious roll. This won't be a walkover by any means, but the Vikes at home are usually tough to beat. The pick here is Minnesota. Finally, we have the 6-7 Falcons taking on the 2-11 Raiders at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. 8:30 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. The Falcons are 4-point favorites. Last week, the Falcons lost to the Vikings 42-21, while the Raiders lost to the Buccaneers 28-13. Fast fact here is Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins has thrown no touchdowns and 8 interceptions in the Falcons' 4-game losing streak. I don't even think that the fans of these respective squads even want to see this game. The Falcons have fallen fast from a once lofty 6 and first. Try that again. Damn. I don't even think that the fans of these respective squads even want to see this game. The Falcons have fallen fast from a once lofty 6-3 first place ledger a month ago. Now heading to Vegas to play the putrid Raiders, who haven't won since it was still really hot temperature-wise on the Vegas Strip. If ever there was a needed tonic for a team with offensive woes, it would be the Raiders' leaky defense. If Cousins can't get right here, he won't ever. And the calls for Michael Penix Jr. will get too loud to ignore. While I think the Penix will be playing in that right soon, Cousins will do just enough to hold him off. For now, the pick here is Atlanta. And there you have it. Last week it was 11-2 with a lock and upset correct. Kids, 144-69 is the overall ledger. I'm 9-5 on the locks, 6-8 on the upsets. We will take our final timeout. Come back with Hoodwood Hot 5, Phat Dap, Head Slap, and the final word from the Wood, along with a special announcement. Sports from the Hoodwood heads down the home stretch after this.
Is today your last day on Earth because you are being deployed to space tomorrow? Have you just turned 18 and you're ready to get out of your parents' house? Has your granddaughter gotten her boyfriend pregnant? Whatever your reason, you need us at GottaGetMarriedNow.com. We specialize in last-minute weddings. Active duty, military veterans and retired discounts are available. Visit us at GottaGetMarriedNow.com.
Hi everyone, I'm KJ Green. If you're looking to reach a broad audience with your advertising dollar, look no further than where you are right now. You can advertise right here in the Hoodwood. If you need spots created as well, Black Banner Productions Enterprises can create commercial content that drives sales and gets results. You can send your inquiries to ads at blackbannerproductions.com. Black Banner Productions and Enterprises. Sounds, ideas, and images of the 21st century.
You're tuned into Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for no-nonsense commentary, insight, and opinions on the world of sports. Here now live in living color, black by popular demand, your host, KJ Green.
Rounding third and headed for home here in the Hoodwood, we will finish up strong with the Hoodwood Hot 5, Phat Dap, Head Slap, and the final word from the Wood, as well as a special announcement forthwith. We will start our Hoodwood Hot 5. It will be named 5 Best Rivalries. And from 5 to 1, and my 5 to 1 is what I say, because there will be 2 big rivalry games coming up on Saturday the 14th. Our 5th best rivalry from the Hoodwood is UNC versus Duke. This is a classic ACC matchup. The football game is always good, but it's the 2 basketball games that have the most notoriety. These 2 schools are 7 miles apart, and it's about philosophical and diametrically opposed to one another as you could get. UNC being the public school in Chapel Hill, Duke being the private school in Durham. These 2 teams don't like one another. Schools don't like one another, and they're in that research triangle down there in Tobacco Road, and usually they face each other at least twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. It is one of the better rivalries in college basketball. Our number 4 in our Hoodwood Hot 5 is Auburn versus Alabama. The Iron Bowl is always a great matchup. It wasn't so much this year as Alabama steamrolled Auburn, but more often than not, these are 2 teams of the first rank going head up for some of the biggest prizes in the SEC. Everybody remembers the kick 6 from Chris Davis in 2013. Winning the game for Alabama, for Auburn. Nick Saban was a legendary coach for Alabama, but he had a few foils at Auburn. The legendary Bear Bryant at Alabama wanted nothing more than to beat Auburn and the two schools don't like one another, and it is a very, very nasty rivalry. Rivalry has gotten out of hand a couple of times with some idiot poisoning the beloved Oaks in Toomer's Corner in Auburn after an Auburn-Alabama game, after Auburn beat Alabama. And like I said, the rivalry can get a little out of hand, but it is one of the 5 best rivalries. Number 3 on our Hoodwood Best Rivalries will be taking place in Landover, Maryland this Saturday in Northwest Stadium as Army and Navy hit the gridiron. For pageantry, you cannot have any better scene than the troops coming in of both the United States Military Academy, West Point, and the U.S. Naval Academy from Annapolis, Maryland. Those two teams, no matter what their record, always are going head up one another. This year, both teams are very good. Army is ranked, winning the American Conference title last weekend, and Navy having a very solid season in their own right. The 19 wins between the two schools, the most between the two schools in their long storied history. Number 2 in our Hoodwood Hot 5 Best Rivalries is Ohio State, Michigan. I live in Ohio. I see this rivalry firsthand. I'm less than 100 miles from Columbus. Both teams literally despise one another. Ohio goes so far as to take Ohio State in Columbus. They X out any M that is in any word or any street sign around the greater Columbus area. I think they take it too far a little bit. Michigan seems to always play the foil and destroy Ohio State's title hopes more often than not, though there have been some really great games in this rivalry. Just this past on December 5th, when Michigan upset number 2 Ohio State, was one of the noted upsets. But the 42-39 number 1 versus number 2 game in 2007 was one of the best games I had ever seen played, and it should have been for the national championship, but it was just for the Big Ten championship. But the Hoodwood Hot 5 number 1 rivalry, and this is in my opinion, no one else counts because this is my neighborhood, is Xavier versus Cincinnati. You see that I have the UC sweatshirt on. I am a diehard Bearcat. Will be Bearcat born, Bearcat bred, and when I'm in the ground, I'll be a Bearcat dead. We have been bred to despise that tiny Jesuit college across town. It's not even across town. It's 3.6 miles. You can go literally ride a bike from one campus to the other and be there in about 20 minutes. It's about a 8 to 10 minute drive. The schools, another one of these schools that are diametrically opposed to one another. Cincinnati is a 50,000 student school, public school. Xavier is about a 7,000 student Jesuit school. Now, Xavier doesn't play football. UC does. Xavier and UC play baseball and are pretty much equal footing, but it's basketball. The two schools don't like one another, and when it comes to the crosstown shootout, there have been fisticuffs, not only just between the players, but also the coaches. So you know there's no love lost between these two schools. Xavier is one of the last 3. Cincinnati is going to be hosting the game at Fifth Third Arena, 2 p.m. on Saturday, and I will be glued in front of my TV rooting on my beloved Bearcats. Those are the top 5 rivalries that I see it. The Hoodwood Hot 5 top 5. That's my top 5. What's yours? Now let's go to our Phat Dap and Head Slap of the week. Phat Dap, which was almost a Phat Dap and a Head Slap all at once. I was going to reverse it and say Head Slap and Phat Dap this one. But this one, Phat Dap going to Loyola of Chicago. Now, everyone knows Loyola of Chicago, their biggest fan is the beloved 105-year-old team chaplain, Sister Jean. God bless her. She's such a diehard fan of the Ramblers. And she sits in the tunnel waiting for the team to come by. But as they beat Eastern Michigan, many of the players walked right by her. Make it make sense. How are you going to diss Sister Jean? Walk by her. But Sister Jean got her revenge. Yeah, they had them doing sprints, doing suicides. And you can be damn sure that when they got done, they walked by and gave Sister Jean dap and love that she rightfully deserves. So I will give a fat dap to Loyola of Chicago basketball team for knowing their rightful mentor and guardian angel, if you will, Sister Jean, their beloved team chaplain. Our head slap of the week, and I changed this because I was going to make the fat dap and head slap all at once. But our head slap of the week goes to Devondre Campbell of the Niners, who in the middle of Thursday's game decided, I don't want to play no more, and literally quit, walked off of the sidelines and walked back into the locker room. Now, 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan didn't want to discuss it after the Niners 12-6 loss to the Rams on Thursday night, but he said there will be discipline forthcoming. If I'm Kyle Shanahan, I cut Campbell. You don't want to play? There's the door. Don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out. Playing pro football is the highest privilege that one can have. You are talking about the elite of the elite, the best players up that are playing the game. And to just walk off because you were tired, you didn't want to play no more. Now, I'm not big on Thursday night games, but I can kind of understand a player being tired. But you don't walk off on your team, your brothers, your teammates. That is the lowest of low. Head slap to Devondre Campbell. He's probably going to be looking for work soon. Now, before we get to the final word from the wood, we have as I've teased it a few times, a special announcement. Now, most people who know me know that I have two daughters. My oldest, Katie, is 28. My youngest goes by the name River, is 16, and I found out is a hockey fan. Never saw that one coming. I mean, I know River kind of likes football. Took them to a Bengals-Vikings game last year and had a blast. But hockey was not something I was that much expecting. So I get a text the other night saying, would I be interested in working with doing a podcast about hockey or doing a segment on hockey. And I'm thinking, I'm always looking for content. If she's willing to produce it, sure. So going forward during the hockey season, we'll have a segment on hockey. We're still in the development stages, but it'll be coming up and it'll be a little bit rough around the edges first. But we will make this part of Sports from the Hoodwood. It's going to be a segment. It's going to be something you're going to like. So stay tuned for it. It's probably going to be a segment like Hoodwood Hot 5 Fat Dapper Head Slap. It's going to be a regular part of the show. I'm confident that you're going to love it. River's excited about bringing it to you. So look for that, and it'll be coming up soon. And now, without much further ado, let's go to the final word from the wood. I'm a girl dad. First and foremost, I'll always say it. Picture my girls, part of the rotation of pictures you see behind me. I'm a very, very fiercely protective of my girls and their well-being. If I found that someone had sexually assaulted them, I would be very, very, very violent to that person. That is something, as a father, I always want to make sure that my girls are protected. On that same vein, someone that is being accused of rape, while the stigma is there, they should be innocent until proven guilty. We've had, in sports, there have been numerous occasions of quote-unquote sexual assaults, but in college, it seems to be that much more nefarious and undercutting. One can recall the Duke lacrosse rape case of 2006, where the accuser, Crystal Magnum, basically accused a number of players on the Duke lacrosse team of sexually assaulting them. 3 members of the Duke lacrosse team were accused of rape. They were subsequently more or less kicked out of school, and it basically drugged down that program. And it was something that people were saying, yeah, privileged kids, they're doing stuff to someone, and they were trying to point the accuser of, they wanted to make sure she was protected. The prosecutor was gung-ho about it, but then the case fell apart. There was inconsistencies. These young men had their names dragged through the mud. And for what? Eventually, the accuser said she made it all up. And for what ends? These young men had their names basically destroyed. And then you have, on the other hand, you have someone like Brock Turner, the Stanford swimmer who sexually assaulted an unconscious female. What he did was heinous, and he should rightfully have been ostracized. But instead of getting a long prison sentence, he was only given 6 months because the judge didn't want to damage his reputation. Even though he did what he was accused of, there were credible witnesses, and there were people who saw what he had done and basically fought him off of the unconscious woman. But he was more or less allowed to skate. The situations like these are heinous, reprehensible, and just downright sickening, if anything. Being a girl dad, I worry constantly that either one of my girls would be in some sort of mortal danger from a rapist. I also worry that some of my friends may be unjustly accused of something of that nature when they didn't do it. The sword cuts both ways. And in any case, it's something to be concerned about. The thing is this: what this woman did to accuse these young men and destroying their reputation going forward, one can only wonder what's going through this person's mind. I also recall the case of one Brian Banks, the football player who had his football career destroyed because of a false accusation by a woman who was vying for his affections, was politely turned down, and then accused him of raping her. Banks was arrested, accused, charged, and prosecuted. Indicted, prosecuted, and put away. He was serving a 15-year sentence until he was finally cleared. But he can't get those years back. He can't get that time back. He was able to piece together his good name and his reputation. But the young man from Duke took a while for their reputation to get back. The young man from Stanford doesn't need to have his reputation, but his was smoothed over. The duality, the dichotomy of the whole situation makes one wonder about justice, about fair play. And that is the final word from the wood. And with the music coming up in the background, that means that your time here in the Hoodwood is just about done. And I thank you so much for your visit. Now, the show's email is kjgreen@sportsfromthehoodwood.com. Please send me emails regarding show topics, both past and future, questions, comments on the show, and both praise and criticism. I welcome your correspondence, and we'll try to get back with you in a timely manner. Now, the show's website is sportsfromthehoodwood.com. It has a back catalog of the show dating back 12 years in both audio and video form. So you can check that out if there are shows that you may have missed. And you can join the debate and the conversation on the Sports from the Hoodwood page on Facebook. We also have video podcast simulcast, as well as other topics, funny stuff that I find on the web, plenty of great sports debate, and lots more. It's very heavily contributed by our senior correspondents, and I think you'll enjoy it. I post often there as well, and respond to member posts frequently. Now, the video versions are also on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button, smash that like button for more great content. Now, the link to the podcast is also on the show's Blue Sky feed at hoodwoodsports.bsky.social. It also has a host of other interesting stuff to find there. Your correspondence with the show is encouraged, and we do respond back, so like and follow there as well. The audio version is on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Samsung Podcast, Apple Podcast, as well as a host of other fine podcast platforms and providers. If the Hoodwood is not on your favorite, ask for it. Drop me a line, and I'll see what I can do to get it there. We've expanded our availability for podcasts thanks to you, our treasured listeners. As always, special thanks to Rage Pictures for providing production assistance to both the show and the website. And that's it from the Hoodwood, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Until next time, fellow sports fans, I'm Merely Bev's son, KJ Green, 30.
Sports from the Hoodwood is a Black Bandit Productions and Enterprises presentation of a 551 Audio and Films production.